What's up, everybody? Welcome to Are You Down with LPT, the podcast where agents like you share their stories, experiences, and insights to help each other level up and thrive. In every episode, we're diving deep into the real-life challenges, wins, and lessons from the front lines. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, this is the place to connect, learn, and grow together. So, if you're ready to get down with LPT and take your game to the next level, let's jump in. Welcome back. This is Kyle Clarkson, and I'm here today with Tracey Frette. Tracey, how you doing?
Great.
Good. So you've had some big changes in life. That's pretty exciting here.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. Tracey and I have known each other. When did you first walk into that Coldwell Banker office?
About 19 years ago.
19 years ago.
Yeah.
So we hung out at that Coldwell Banker office in, let's see, I started in 2004, and you would have been like 16 or 6, somewhere in there?
2006, probably.
6, yeah. So then I was in that office for 7-8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So got to know you well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and always appreciated you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk a little bit, a little bit about your background. How did you go down this road of lending?
That's a great question. Well, I went to Iowa State. That is where I
Go
got
Cyclones.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Although I do have 2 Hawkeyes, so I have to be.
And my son, one time as a kid, we were all sitting around, and he said, "Go Iowa." I'm like, "You get out of here." And then when you don't say that, you can come back in this room. And so I told my kids, "Hey, I'll pay for college.
But not if you go
if
there.
you're going to Iowa, then that's on you." So they can go anywhere, but they're not going to be Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. One of the first onesies was Iowa State for both of them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. My son was wearing a onesie when he was born. So Iowa State onesie.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah,
You're okay.
I know.
You love them all the same.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to Iowa State. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're good. So I got a business degree in marketing and management, and I thought I was going to go into event planning, but the offer that I got was at a finance company, and I needed a job.
Yeah.
So hey, I'm like, okay, well, let's give this a whirl, and it was actually probably one of the most best learning experiences I ever had. We actually solicited clients that were either clients of the finance company or clients of an affiliate of the finance company, and we did telemarketing sales.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to start, though,
It
right?
is.
You probably
It
learned a
was.
lot. Good
I learned
and
a
bad. Yeah.
ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned a ton. And I think the biggest thing I learned there was how to be a good listener and to really pay attention to what people were saying, because you're not face-to-face most of the time with anybody. And then, just helping them make financial decisions. That was really cool. So
I mean, when I got into real estate, my dad pretty much made me call for sale by owner expired, and I just got done telling somebody else, like, I really want people to like me. And there were so many people who didn't like me.
Yeah.
They hated me. I never had felt so much hatred. And so that's not the kind of real estate I want to do. I don't have thick enough skin for that. But I learned a lot of things in it, right?
Yeah. And people hang up on you.
Yeah, right.
You say the wrong thing. Yeah. You quickly learn. I mean, it's you get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
So
those are the negatives. What's maybe one thing you've loved, about the industry?
Yeah. Well, I love to learn and I love challenges, but probably the biggest thing is being a part of people's stories and the impact that I feel like I've made. I keep track of my past clients, and at least 33% of my business is past clients. So I get to a lot of times help them with their first house financing, and then they come back and they buy their next house, and usually they have a kid or 2. They've gotten married. I've had the privilege of helping people downsize, move across country, and just getting to know them and helping them with such a big thing and being the person they can rely on. That I love that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're in real estate, and it's to be in this industry, and you get to see the good and the bad, right? People going through things in life,
for sure,
both sides of it. But it is a very rewarding job to have.
Yeah, for sure. And then people share, they share a lot of intimate things, like if they're moving, and they're leaving their family, how hard that might be. If
Yeah.
they're going through divorce, that's kind of can be challenging. If they're moving so that they can bring up their family in a new home, that's pretty cool.
You often hear it before anybody else,
Yeah.
like, hey, we haven't told family yet, but we're pregnant, and,
Yeah.
and that's awesome.
That's
He's
pretty
excited.
cool.
Yeah.
Yes, then I get text messages of people's babies
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
that's really it's a privilege that I don't take for granted at all. Yeah.
I had that last week where first-time home buyer, and they moved to the U.S. a year ago, and he'd worked so hard. And he was so excited to be at closing. He's dressed up. He's got this nice hat on. And I love the story of that. And it's a reminder, take for granted. And oftentimes I do take for granted, but to not take that for granted.
Yeah.
Like, this is, these are life-changing events for people. And we get to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a pretty cool thing.
That is. It's an honor. Yeah.
Any defining moments, good or bad, in your career that you can think back on?
Yeah, probably. The finance company I worked with, that they did a lot of good as far as helping us, learn, phone skills and different things like that, and some basic finance stuff. But really, once I got into being a broker, being a banker, there's no real training for this. There's you don't go into an apprentice program. No one really shares with you how everything works and how it all kind of goes together. So there's a lot of trial by error, and I mean that's okay.
Yeah.
It's I learn pretty well if I make a mistake, but sometimes that's not so fun. But I think that's probably that has pushed me to focus on learning and getting better, and never thinking I know everything. That's probably the biggest defining moments or challenges have been having to adjust and having to respond to change, which seems obviously in this business like it's constant.
Yeah. And actually, you just changed. You
Yeah.
made a big change.
I did. I made
So
a big
maybe we
change.
go there. That's a good segue. You just made that
I didn't
move.
even do that on purpose.
Yeah. So you just made a big move.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that change and what led to it.
Yeah. So I have joined Community Choice Credit Union. I was in banking for about 25 years. So I worked at 3 different banks for about 25 years. And I had, about a year and a half ago, gone to a mortgage banker. And that company is national, which is great. They just don't have that local feel. And I was really missing that. And part of the thing that I think is important for myself is to be in an institution that aligns with my values. And Community Choice seems to have, they do. A lot of the things that they value, a lot of the mission of them as an organization is very community focused. And it's also, the departments seem very cohesive. They like to work together. And having it be a not-for-profit, I really was drawn to that because the banks that I had worked at, unfortunately, had run into some issues during economic downturns. And so that made those places less stable. And with Community Choice being a not-for-profit business, I think that that's going to be a better fit for me. Mm-hmm. And I think they offer better solutions for their members.
Yeah.
So that was
excited about it.
That
right?
is. I am very excited.
Anything that felt right? Maybe you talked about this, but what felt right or different about Community Choice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mission, the vision. They really want their employees to work to their full potential, which that's a driving factor of the way that I like to do my thing. They value quality work. They have a heart for the community. They're very community focused. They get involved in a lot of community activities, which I like. And local, just being here in the Des Moines Metro. I have lived in the Metro for 24 years, actually 25 years. And I just love Des Moines. I think it's a great place, and it's done a lot for me and my family, and I want to give back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And, community state or a Community Choice, it's a known entity in the Des Moines
They've
market.
got their name on a convention center.
Yeah. They got their name in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Marketing is a big part of what they do.
Yeah, it is.
And so you've been there a couple weeks, transition so far so good. I know you're early in it, but
yeah. Sometimes it's like drinking from a fire hose, but yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn.
I was talking to Matt a little bit ago, and he's like, "It's a whole new system.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited about this, but I'm learning quite a bit right now."
Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, the transition's going well, and they're being very supportive. So that's what you need when you're in the midst of that.
Yeah.
So
talk a little bit about the market. I think you guys have partnered with a great company. I think from talking to you guys before, I think even more competitive on rates and cost and all that stuff, where it's important in a tighter market where, we don't have those 3% interest rates. So every 1/4% or 1/8%
makes a big difference.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
What's your take on the current market that we're in?
Yeah. Well, as you know, in past years, we went through kind of very predictable phases. We'd come through the winter and it was real quiet, and we'd come into spring market and it would get very busy. We'd push through till, end of June, have a little bit of break, then a little bit of push right before the fair, have a little bit of break, then push into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it kind of was routine. And now it seems like we've got different markets every quarter. So I think the biggest thing is for consumers to be flexible, and for agents to, the fact that, LPT has great work office meetings, and when you talk about the market and you talk about what's going on, and the agents talk to each other in in group texts, and also when they see each other, that really lends a lot of, I guess, information for them to be able to provide back to their consumers. Because I'll be sitting in the office and someone will come in and say, "Hey, have you noticed this? Like, there for a little while this year, there were, prices were starting to come down on homes, or we were seeing more price concessions on either purchase price concessions, closing concessions, things like that." And then we moved into, a little bit of a market where that wasn't happening quite as much. So the fact that everybody at LPT in the offices, we talk to each other and we pay attention and we communicate that stuff out to our consumers, I think. Not knowing where the market's going to go, what the trends will be going forward, I think that's probably the biggest advantage that that office has.
Yeah. I appreciate both you and Matt. You and Matt are both in the office, active in the office. I know people come in often, talk to you, right? And so I think having that, your guys' expertise in what's going on is important. And for us as agents, we learn a lot from being around each other, or being around you guys. And so I always encourage people, be around, be in the office. You're going to learn quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So rates, you promised me 3% by the end of the year. Are you still thinking that?
No.
I don't think we're ever seeing 3 again.
No. Yeah. So we're
Can
about,
we see a 5?
We're in the mid-6s now.
Yeah.
Both Fannie Mae and the Mortgage Bankers Association predict mid-5s sometime next year. It could be March, it could be December. It's really hard. There are a ton of things that are impacting
Can I say,
that.
when they say, because nationally I think rates tend to be higher than what they are in Des Moines.
They do.
When they're talking mid-5s next year, that could mean
It
lower
could, yes, it
5s
could
here.
be. Yeah, it could be.
I'm not holding you to it. I'm just.
Yep. If you would jump on any of your listeners jump on CNBC and ask for mortgage rate trends, they would see, at least for the credit bureaus, the trends about 3/8 to 0.5% higher than what we can actually offer, which is really interesting. So you could see low 5s if that does come to pan out. That mid-5s, you could see low 5s. And that's really. I mean, if you look at the 30-year trend, it's more in the mid-6s. So mid-5s is really good.
Yeah, I would love if we could be around 5. It seems to me that's a number where if I've got a 3, okay, it's 5, I could get off the sideline. It's tough. I'm 6.5, 7, and I got a 3.
Right.
I must really need or have to move
Right.
if I'm going to do that.
Yep.
So I just think there's quite a few people on the sideline because, hey, I've got that 3. I don't really want to move to that 7.
Absolutely. It has to be there has to be a life event, seems
Yeah,
like
yes,
now.
right.
You have to be moving, you have to be marrying, you have to be divorcing, you have to be having your third kid and have no more room, that kind of thing. Yeah. Or, wanting to downsize. All those things are stopping people, I think, right now. Although people have a lot more equity.
Yeah,
than
that's the
they
one
used
positive
to.
for sure.
Just,
COVID helped us there.
A
But
tremendous amount of equity. So more and more of my clients are coming in 20, 30% down payment and still pocketing some money to do improvements to homes.
yeah, so take me there, strategies, because there's a lot of uncertainty. We talked about it already.
Yeah.
Like normally we're expecting this, and right now it feels like a lot of uncertainty. But what are some strategies to help clients move forward, despite that uncertainty?
Yeah. To me, that part is confidence and knowing what your goals are and what you want. The strategies for achieving those goals, I feel like, have to be tailored to the customer. So when I go into a consultation with a client, I don't just send them a loan application. I am having a concerted, 15-minute to half an hour conversation about what do they want, what are their goals, and if they're buying for the first time, really focusing on, what is their budget, but not price, where they need that payment to land, so we can work within how everybody uses their money, which is on a monthly basis, and that budget, so that they know what price of home will get them there. That's always my first starting conversation question is, where do you want to be payment-wise, so we can match the price point to that payment. And then if they've got flexibility, then we can talk about, okay, well, if you can't find the house that you want in that particular price point and you're comfortable moving up in payment, then here's what that would look like. And give them all of those options so that they know what they have available. As far as tools, we use the Iowa Finance Authority has a great first-time homebuyer loan program where they're giving a 5% down payment assistance loan. That's not only usable if you have no down payment. I have had multiple clients who might have on their first house maybe 5%, 10% down. So we add that in and then we're getting 10, 15% down. And that extra 5% can make a $60 payment difference for them. I've also had them use that in the event that they wanted to buy a home that was a little less expensive, but they also wanted to keep some of their cash to use for renovations. That way they're using the Iowa Finance Authority money for their down payment. They can use their money to invest in the home and hopefully increase their equity position and put that house help that house be more of the house that they want. Maybe if it's an older home, you need some updates, things like that. So those are good things that first-time homebuyers can do. But focus on the budget, especially for the first-time homebuyers, and help them understand how the whole process works. Strategies for the move-up buyers is, if you've got equity, where's the best use of that equity? So if you're coming away from a home sale with $80,000, you don't have to put the entire amount down. We can talk about what other uses, would you have for that money? Would you want to invest it? Would you want to use it to improve the property? So maybe you buy a little less expensive house and you do the improvements on the home. Or would you like it to use it to pay down some credit debt? Now that credit card rates are higher than they've been, a lot of consumers have more credit debt than they have for years. They could use some of that to pay some of that off and kind of give their budget a little bit of a break there. Yeah. Have a cushion also so that they've got something to fall back on. There have been, sometimes clients lose their jobs and don't necessarily have that cushion. And talking with them about all those financial options so that we can find what fits best for them, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Appreciate that about you. And Matt's same way. And some of that just comes from being in the business a long time, being old, right?
Yeah, I think so. Making mistakes.
Yeah, but you learn. Yeah. And, for having 20 plus years experience, you can talk about strategies for any market, but some of it's just like, hey, year after year, we see the same things and, what works. So.
Yeah. And knowing your client, that helps you make the strategy specific to them and give them ideas, but it's never my decision. It's always just, here's some options, here's some thoughts, here's some ways we can handle this. I
think it goes back to what you said in the beginning, some of the things you learned about listening, right?
Yeah.
Talking to your clients and listening and hearing their needs and what they're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what excites you about work right now?
Well, I like challenging myself, so this new job should be that.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like that. That's good. And then the other thing that excites me is I feel like, regardless of your technology preferences, people still, I find it every single day, people still want to have somebody that they can talk to.
Yeah.
They want to have somebody they can trust. They want to. They don't necessarily want to do everything on the internet. They don't want to, use a company that's not here or a person that's not here. So I feel like that helps me use that. What you were just talking about, you just segued it. Helps me use that expertise that I have to help people more. And I'm kind of excited that I can combine with what Community Choice has to offer and bring that to the table as well. So that's exciting. Yeah, that's cool.
We were talking to Bonnie. Bonnie's from Maker AI and talking about AI in business.
Yeah, and
there's important aspects of that. Over 50% of people have never used a tool like ChatGPT. But in the end, even if you do, there's the human element, right? So we can use technology and, we can use AI, we can use all these things. But at the end of the day, you said it, like, I still want to be able to call and talk to someone. Yeah. And I want to hear from you and I want that human connection. Yeah. That goes a long way.
It does.
And don't want to lose that, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And my first-time buyers almost want it more than the clients who have purchased multiple times. Yeah. They want a trusted person that they can talk to about stuff. And, I'm probably most of their parents' age. So
you do have two in college, right?
I think that, that gives me a perspective. Like, they can talk to me about stuff like they might talk to one of their parents, but maybe might not ask one of their parents, that kind of stuff. So I'd like to be open so that they know that I can text them. We can email and we can whatever, but they seem to really like that, sometimes one-on-one stuff.
Mama Frette.
It's good. It's good. I like that.
Yeah. What's one thing you wish every real estate agent knew about the lending process?
That's a really good question.
Maybe more than one?
No, yeah. How much of an impact they can make on the process. Like, really make on the process. The more an agent works with the lender and the more they communicate what happens during the lending process with their client, the easier it is. The more they have set expectations from the beginning, the easier it is. The process just goes so much easier. I don't have, if I say, okay, client, you've given me a bank statement. Now there's some things on the bank statement that I have to get explained. When I have agents that get how that works, they can help ease the client's mind, because sometimes, a client will be like, oh my goodness, you're asking me for X, Y, Z, and now you need more things. What is going on? If the agents understand how the process works, they're like, oh, that's normal. This is completely normal. This is the way this process works. And if they can kind of explain that up front, I've had multiple agents who, in their initial walkthrough with their new buyers or sellers, they'll say, so here's some things about the lending process. Here's, a person maybe that I'm going to recommend, some things that you are going to want to know about the lending process before you start talking with her. And if you have questions, ask me, ask her. If she's asking you for something you think is weird, keep those communication lines open. And you can make a huge impact as to how the process moves forward if you talk to your customer.
I think I've had people get frustrated, like the lender wants so much information, right? And I think you're right.
Yeah.
If we kind of, as agents, prepped them a little bit,
Yeah.
like, hey, they're going to need this, they're going to need this, they're going to be asking a lot of questions, and
Yep.
it doesn't matter who you're using.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless they're maybe in 2010 or
Yes,
9, 8.
yes, 7, 6, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But today, like, hey, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
just to prep them for that, I think would be good.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference. And also, if you can get them into the lender, whoever they're using, have them talk to the lender right away so they get pre-qualified, they know what's going on, they can feel confident in their decisions. That's going to help the agent help them find the house that they want. And if you as an agent are realizing that some of the key questions you're asking, like what kind of loan are you doing, do you know what payment you're going to hit, do you have a price point that you're in, if you notice some of those questions the consumer they don't have the answers or they don't seem confident, then they might be needing someone else to help them. Because if they just go online and enter some information, they might get a pre-approval, but somebody might not have looked at it.
Yeah.
So or explained it. So that kind of stuff I think is really important. That's what I think when I think about how agents can help. Yeah.
Tracy, appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. If people want to connect with you, I think most of our agents probably know how to find you.
But if they don't,
Yep.
because you got a new email.
I do. My new email is tracy.frette@comchoicecu.org. And my cell phone's 515-238-5779. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Tracy,
Appreciate it, Kyle.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Are You Down with LPT? Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you get some valuable takeaways to apply to your journey. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss out. And hey, if you have your own story you'd like to share or questions you'd like to dive into, hit us up. Until next time, stay down with LPT and keep leveling up. Catch you in the next one.